Hi guys, I actually have a book review for you guys this Friday. It's on a semi-new book, and that is Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. And I'm super pumped about this book because it's one of my first booktube recommendations that I specifically bought because of it. It was because of a wonderful video on the lovely channel MercuryCalling, and I will link that down below. And I had actually watched this video, and then Michaela actually messaged me the video and said, if you haven't seen this yet, then you have to watch this video because it's totally up your alley. And I was like, I already watched it, which is weird for me because I go in booktube binge watches where I don't watch a channel for forever and then I'll watch all the stuff they've done in the past forever. So I just happened upon to that video right after it came out, and I was in a bookstore with a gift certificate and this was sitting there, and I just went, you know what I need to buy after watching that video? This. And I don't regret it, in case you're wondering. I don't at all. So Rebel of the Sands is about a girl named Amani, and she lives in a pseudo-Arabesque town and world where, genies were real once, or, with the actual D-J-I-N-N-I spelling, not the G and the E, like Aladdin. And there's some magic, but it's mostly being eradicated by iron guns and gunpowder, and she's been training her whole life basically to be a sharpshooter, and she's really, really good at what she does. And she finds out that she's about to be married to her uncle because she's an orphan, and her uncle's like, I'll marry her, and she's totally skeezed out by that. Not her blood uncle, by the way. Not weird. Ugh. Whatever. Anyways, she's about to be married to him, and she goes, nuh-uh, and she enters a sharpshooting contest trying to make the money to get out. Things go terribly awry, but she meets a foreigner named Jin, and they go out on an adventure together, kind of, sort of. It just starts there. One thing that I really like about this book is that I think sometimes when you see the female and male protagonists going off on an adventure together, they are going off on an adventure together because they're in love or something, or they fall in love while they're on the road. And while I'm not saying this doesn't happen later in the book, the initial interactions between Jin and Amani are just, Amani's just I'm using you to get away from here, and she actually makes progress in trying to separate herself from him to go her own way because he's not going where she thinks she wants to go, and she's like, I'm not having that, and so she actually ditches him a couple of times, and it's him that keeps coming back. And I really liked that. I really liked Amani as a character. She was not in the beginning the kind of character who just does things for altruistic reasons. She really knows what she wants in the beginning and makes an attempt to go after what she wants and kind of willing to save her own skin. And I think sometimes we get female heroines who just do things for altruistic reasons, and that's their entire reason for being, and they don't have their own wants. It's for the good of the many or whatever, and Amani is not that. I keep saying in the beginning because one of my issues with this book is that she does go through a kind of personality shift towards the end of it, and of course I'm not going to tell you why, but I didn't entirely believe it, but at the same time there are reasons enough given in the book that I was like, all right, I'll give you that. And it didn't necessarily make her less of a strong character. It was just a really, I felt, abrupt switch from that, just gonna do my thing girl to gonna fight for the cause girl. And I mean, what you gonna do? The plot literally couldn't have happened if that hadn't happened. Words. So again, I understand why it's there, but that doesn't mean that I'm happy about it. As a male protagonist, Jin was pretty okay. For most of the book, I actually felt that he was rather bland, kind of stock male protagonist number, 4 or whatever. He does get a lot more character depth towards the end of the book, But, I mean, by then it was a little bit too little too late for me, because he and Imani have already started to become a thing. And, you know, there's this reveal towards the end that you're just kind of sitting there going, really? Again? Although I guess it could have been worse. So, there were also just some weird writing errors in this. Like, just, not even just spelling errors, but like writing ticks or sentences that weren't properly constructed, or two sentences next to each other that contradicted themselves at times. And I don't know why I was being really picky about that, but it did happen more than once, which I think is just a nature of this being Alwyn Hamilton's debut, which is fine, and it's not that big of a deal, but I kept catching them and being like, what? One thing that I really appreciated about this book was how global it thought about its world building. I think sometimes that you get books, and especially books that are this size, this is not a big book, but their world building is very localized to one town or one region. If you get a book that thinks about itself in terms of a country, you're usually doing pretty good. But Rebel in the Sands is really a global book. There is a global plot going on where countries are fighting each other and factions are fighting for thrones, and you really get the sense of that in a really strong way. And I was really, really amazed by that, and really, really respecting that in this writing, because it just fit so nicely in together and gave the book such a wider perspective than just Amani's own story, which was pretty great. All in all, I really did enjoy this book. I know that I talked about some iffy parts, but in the long run, this book was really well put together and a really fun read. I actually read it in one sitting, which I haven't done in a while. And I mean, again, it is a pretty thin book for me, but at the same time, it was just because it was enjoyable to read. It was fun. I liked the characters. I liked the storyline. I liked the world. Amani did become a little bit more of the stock, strong female protagonist, Viva la Revolution, than I kind of wanted her to be, but in the beginning, she definitely had more of the qualities that I really wanted to see in her, and I think that as she goes through these books that she might regain that when she gets more of her confidence back after the reveal that happens in the end of this book. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, of course, but basically this book is a really strong debut and opening for this series, and I have my issues with it, but I'm really excited to see where it goes next. And as Ray Carson says on the back, you will mark your calendars for the sequel, and I have certainly done that. So really glad I picked it up, and I can't wait to see where Alwyn Hamilton goes from here. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!